On September 4, 1967, a Navy chaplain was at the company command post when word came that the 2nd Platoon of Mike Company was about to be overrun. He had no weapon. He was not a combatant. He had no military obligation to go anywhere near the fighting. He ran toward it anyway, through open ground raked with enemy fire, directly to the beleaguered platoon. A mortar round hit him. It severed a portion of his right hand. It wounded him in the arms and legs. He refused all medical aid. He directed the corpsman to help the other wounded instead. And he kept going. His name was Vincent Capodanno. The Marines called him the Grunt Padre. And on one of the bloodiest days of the Vietnam War, he stayed with his men until there was nothing left to give. Everything you are about to hear comes from official military records, the Medal of Honor citation, verified historical accounts of Operation Swift, and documented biographical sources. No embellishment, just what actually happened. Vincent Robert Capodanno Jr. was born on February 13, 1929 on Staten Island, New York. He was the youngest of 10 children. His father was an immigrant from Gaeta, Italy. He grew up in a large working-class Italian-American family in one of New York's outer boroughs. He graduated from Curtis High School in 1947. He took night classes at Fordham University while working as an insurance clerk. In 1949, he entered the Maryknoll Missionary Seminary in Ossining, New York. 9 years of formation followed: theology, academics, and preparation for a life of service in the mission field. He was ordained a Roman Catholic priest in June 1957. He was 28 years old. Capodanno's first assignment as a missionary was in Taiwan, working with Aboriginal communities in the mountains. He spent years there, running a parish, then a school, living among people who had nothing. He then transferred to Hong Kong, where he taught at a Maryknoll school. It was in Hong Kong that he first encountered the United States Navy in any meaningful way. U.S. ships making port calls, Navy chaplains inviting him aboard to celebrate Mass. The war in Vietnam was escalating. American Marines were dying in a country not far from where he was standing. He made a decision. He applied to become a Navy chaplain, specifically requesting assignment to a Marine Corps infantry unit in Vietnam. The request was unusual. It was granted. After officer training, he reported to the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines in Vietnam in April 1966. He was 37 years old. He had never served in the military before. From the first days of his assignment, Capodanno established a reputation that would define everything that followed. He did not stay in the rear. He went out on patrols. He slept in the same conditions as the enlisted Marines. He ate the same food. He carried the same load. He became known as the Grunt Padre, a priest who lived like a grunt because he believed his men needed him where they were, not where it was safer. He established libraries at forward positions. He gathered and distributed gifts. He organized outreach programs for local Vietnamese villagers. He heard confessions in the field. He distributed St. Christopher medals. He spent hours with Marines who were weary and disillusioned, grieving, frightened, far from home. When his first tour ended, he requested an extension. When that extension ended, he requested another one, specifically to be with his men through Thanksgiving and Christmas. The Marines he served were not a duty assignment to Vincent Capodanno. They were his. By the summer of 1967, the Chosin Valley in Quang Tin Province had become one of the most dangerous operating areas in South Vietnam. The valley was rice-rich and populous, strategically important to both sides. The North Vietnamese 2nd Division had spent months rebuilding its strength in the valley after earlier engagements. By early September 1967, it had grown to include 3 regular NVA regiments, reinforced by a full-strength Viet Cong regiment. Approximately 2,500 enemy soldiers. The 5th Marine Regiment had been assigned to the valley throughout 1967. Operation Swift began unofficially at 4:30 in the morning on September 4th, when Company D of the 1st Battalion walked into a massive ambush near the village of Dong Son. By 9:14 that morning, 26 Marines were confirmed dead. More units were committed. The fighting spread. Companies K and M of the 3rd Battalion were sent to reinforce. They were also ambushed. By early afternoon, multiple Marine companies were pinned down in separate positions across the valley under continuous heavy attack. It would become one of the bloodiest single days of the Vietnam War for the 5th Marines. 127 Marines would die in the battle overall. Capodanno was at the 3rd Battalion's Combat Operations Center that morning. He sat in on the briefing. He listened to the radio reports. He understood what was happening in the valley. When Companies M and K were committed to the fight, he went with them. He was under orders to stay in the rear. He went anyway. According to verified accounts, he was in the vanguard when the Marines landed in a landing zone only a kilometer from the fighting. He was not where he was supposed to be. He was exactly where he needed to be. The fighting that Company M walked into was overwhelming. The 2nd Platoon found itself on a small knoll in the open, caught in the crossfire of a much larger enemy force. Men were going down. The platoon was in danger of being overrun. According to the official Medal of Honor citation, Capodanno left the relative safety of the company command post and ran through open ground raked with fire directly to the beleaguered platoon. He moved about the battlefield. He administered last rites to the dying. He gave medical aid to the wounded. He had no weapon. He was not a trained combatant. He was a priest from Staten Island moving through a firefight because his Marines were in it. Then a mortar round hit him. It inflicted, in the words of the official citation, painful multiple wounds to his arms and legs. It severed a portion of his right hand. He was offered medical aid. He refused it. He directed the corpsmen to help the other wounded Marines instead. And with what the citation describes as calm vigor, he continued to move about the battlefield. He kept going from position to position. He provided encouragement. He administered to the dying. He kept going. Near the end of the battle, he encountered a corpsman, a Navy medic, who had been seriously wounded. The corpsman was lying in the direct line of fire of an enemy machine gun, approximately 15 yards away. Capodanno rushed toward him. According to the official citation, he was only inches from his goal when he was struck down by a burst of machine gun fire. He was killed moving toward a wounded man. He was 38 years old. Corporal James Hamfelt, a survivor of the battle, said of Capodanno, "He gave his life. That's what Christ did. The only way I can justify it is that he did it because that is what he had to do. And if he is going to be a priest and a Christian, there really can't be any other way." Fred Smith, who served with Capodanno during his first tour and later founded FedEx, said, "Words can't adequately describe my feelings about Father Capodanno. He was a great man, and a lot of people owe their lives to him. They didn't have any medals big or ornate enough for his brand of man. These are verified, documented accounts from men who were there. They are included here because the official citation tells us what he did. The men who knew him tell us who he was." On December 27, 1968, the Secretary of the Navy notified the Capodanno family that their son would be posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. The ceremony was held on January 7, 1969. The citation reads in part, "By his heroic conduct on the battlefield and his inspiring example, Lieutenant Capodanno upheld the finest traditions of the United States Naval Service. He gallantly gave his life in the cause of freedom." The legacy of Vincent Capodanno did not end on September 4, 1967. In November 1973, the United States Navy commissioned USS Capodanno, a frigate named in his honor. It became the first ship in the United States fleet to receive a papal blessing when Pope John Paul II blessed it in Naples, Italy, on September 4, 1981, the 14th anniversary of Capodanno's death. Chapels bearing his name were dedicated at military installations across the country and overseas, including at the Navy Chaplain School in Newport, Rhode Island, meaning that virtually every Navy chaplain trained since has learned his name. On May 19, 2002, the Catholic Church formally opened the cause for his beatification. In May 2006, he was officially designated a servant of God, the first formal step in the process toward sainthood. The cause for beatification remains open. The Marines who knew him already have their answer. There are certain things we can verify about September 4, 1967. We know Capodanno was ordered to stay in the rear. We know he went anyway. We know he ran through open ground under fire to reach his platoon. We know a mortar round severed a portion of his right hand and wounded him in the arms and legs. We know he refused medical aid and directed corpsmen to help others instead. We know he kept moving across the battlefield after that. We know he was killed rushing toward a wounded corpsman 15 yards from an enemy machine gun. We know he was inches from his goal when he died. What we don't know is what it costs to keep moving across a battlefield with your hand severed. The official record tells us he did it with calm vigor. It doesn't tell us what calm vigor costs. Sometimes that's enough. Vincent Capodanno left a missionary assignment in Taiwan to volunteer for a war. He left the rear to go forward. He extended his tour once. He extended it again. He was ordered to stay back. He went anyway. He had no weapon on a battlefield where everyone else had one. He had no obligation to be anywhere near the fight. He had a severed hand and multiple wounds, and he kept going. The Medal of Honor citation uses words like gallantry and intrepidity and heroic conduct. Those words are accurate. But they don't capture the priest from Staten Island who lived like a grunt because he believed his men deserved a priest who understood what they were going through. They don't capture what it means to have a calling so clear that orders to stay back simply don't register as a reason to stop. The Marines of the 5th Regiment buried one of their own on September 4, 1967. They called him the Grunt Padre. The Catholic Church is in the process of calling him something else. The Marines got there first. Vincent Robert Capodanno received the Medal of Honor posthumously on January 7, 1969. He was born February 13, 1929, on Staten Island, New York. He was killed September 4, 1967, in the Chosin Valley, Vietnam. He was 38 years old. He was inches from his goal when he died. He is buried in the family plot at St. Peter's Cemetery on Staten Island. He went toward every place he was told not to go. That was who he was. Next time on Above and Beyond, Korea. November 1950. A Marine sergeant leads his squad through one of the most brutal battles of the Korean War. Outnumbered and surrounded at the Chosin Reservoir, he refuses to leave a wounded man behind. He is shot. He keeps going. He is shot again. He organizes a defensive perimeter in -30-degree temperatures that holds through the night. His name was Raymond Davis, who led a battalion through 6 miles of enemy-held territory in sub-zero temperatures to relieve Fox Company at Tong Pass the same night Cafarata held it. The other side of the same battle. That story. Next episode. These names are more than records. They are reminders of what it means to go above and beyond. To help us preserve these stories for the next generation, subscribe to the archive now. To see another story of impossible courage, click the video on your screen. Every citation is a life. Every life is a story. Thank you for honoring them with us.